Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever time you are joining us. Thank you for joining us for another amazing edition of the Africa UAE Business Summit. This, for those who are new to this platform, this is a platform that is absolutely obsessed with Africa because we firmly believe in the potential for Africa. And so every single week, we bring you different conversations because we believe uniting Africa, UAE, and also Africa to the whole world is really the next big thing because the African potential still remains highly untapped despite all the years and all the challenges. And that's why we do this because we believe in the absolute potential for Africa. And that's why every week we're coming here with different conversations. Today we're coming to you with a conversation of agribusiness and foodstuff supply. And it's something we've touched on before, but it's honestly a topic that we cannot exhaust, at least not in the 1 hour that we have. However, we'll try and nibble at it, capture a different side of it. Um, the thesis for it really, or the foundation for it is simple. Africa has some of the largest amount of arable land. I think it's about 60 or 40% arable land in the world is found in Africa. UAE on the other side is does not have arable land. Most of it is desert and all that kind of thing. But the population in the UAE is consistently growing because of attractive business environment that is there, particularly in Dubai. So it's always attracting new investors and new companies that want to move there. So basically, the whole world is moving into Dubai and into the UAE, and they don't have a way of feeding themselves. I mean, at the basic level, those are the dynamics. And so, what we're looking to explore then is how can we get African agribusiness to supply to the UAE, and also the flip side, how can we get investors from the world, all over the world, investing in Africa, then to take advantage of that gap or take advantage of that synergy that is there between Africa and UAE. And truth be told, there's a lot to look into. But just to begin the conversation, uh, Africa, I mean, UAE imports about $16 billion of foodstuffs every year. Okay. And so the question there then is, what are then some of those challenges that as African suppliers, because we've worked at Mawaida, we've done a lot of market entry where we're trying to break African producers and African farmers to get to start supplying to Dubai and start supplying to the UAE. And so there's some challenges that we meet on the way. And so I'm going to bring in an expert who has had a lot of experience connecting Africa and the UAE when it comes to business, agribusiness and food import and export. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone, wherever you are. Uh, I'll give you a little bit of background about who I am and what I do, and where I see the opportunity for African producers, mainly in the fresh produce sector, and also the challenges that you will face uh, in order to penetrate the UAE market. I'm based here in the UAE. I've been here for 17 years. I've worked in various aspects of the food industry, from flour milling, edible oil production, a, a pure tomato sauces, basic foodstuffs, and also then in the animal food sector, in feeding the sheep, goats, camels, and cows that actually exist here. Now, the point that the host has raised, which is very obvious, is that the UEA is a desert climate. And as a result of that, the UEA is unable to come close to producing any kind of food to sustain itself. As a country, we import in percentage terms 84% of all our food, which is huge. So that also presents then for food producing countries and food exporting countries, a sizable opportunity. What I do and what my company does to support that is that WL Food Marketing, what we do is to look to support foreign companies that want to get into the UAE market in the food and beverage sector and fresh produce sector and animal feed sector. We help them to get into the market with market research, with route to market, with what we call a sort of business holidays, where we bring people over, we introduce you to all the key players in the sector that you're looking to penetrate. We give you market knowledge, market overview. We will do representation for you so that if your products are being sold here, we can support you with sales, but also with key things like the logistics, the clearance, the invoicing, and the following up on payments. So to say what is the opportunity? The opportunity, if I look at the fresh produce as one example, the fresh produce market alone here is worth over 450 million USD annually, and is expected to grow, as our host has pointed out, because of population increases due to expansion of the country, but also the peaks and troughs of tourism. That will grow, expected up until 2029 to over 550 million USD. So it's a huge market. So there's a great opportunity. It is also a market that is has a high capita, so people will spend money on the right things. And there is a very healthy foodie sector here. There's a very healthy high-end restaurant culture. And all this means that hotels, restaurants are after high-quality produce, interesting produce, and unusual produce. So this is where the opportunity lies, is to supply this market. But the market requires, as well as the products that are different and unusual. Quality is key here. And too many suppliers think that they can just send any kind of quality here because we don't understand it, because we're not farmers, we don't know what things look like. That's not the case. There's a very highly developed food distribution sector here, and that means that sector is demanding high quality because it's dealing with high-end customers. So one of the key opportunities and challenges at the same time is to get that right. And in my experience, many producing companies out of Africa are not paying enough attention to that. The ones that are being very successful. They're getting regular business. They're getting fixed prices and good prices, and they're highly successful. The ones that aren't doing that aren't worrying about the quality so much and hoping that it'll be okay, it'll be fine. They're losing money because they're not getting regular supply of orders. They will never achieve the prices they want, and in many cases they will end up selling their product below their break-even mark because they're not able to realize the opportunity when it arrives here because the quality is simply not good enough. So, for me, I work with many different companies in different parts of Africa, from West Africa, Ghana, Ivory Coast, down to South Africa, East Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, and also in North Africa, in Egypt and Tunisia. And all those markets, there is a great variation between the companies in terms of the quality that they're able to do. And unfortunately, there's sometimes a price expectation that because Dubai is a rich market, that they will get top dollar for their product regardless of what it's like. And again, that is simply not the case. So the opportunity is to get that right, but also that's the challenge. And that sometimes needs back end investment. It means better pack houses, better infrastructure in terms of the cold chain, especially. And it means that the whole QC end of things has to get much, much better, in my opinion. And that is the challenge and the opportunity. The other challenges are that the market here is also a credit hungry market. So when coming into it, it's important that you understand that people will not pay in advance. They will pay at best cash against documents. They will pay 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days they will request. So when coming into the market, you have to have your cash flow in order, and you have to be able to deal with that in the first 3 months of doing business. Once that's over, people will pay. And choosing the right customers, which again, thing that is very important, and that's where knowing the market is, and that's where using experts and people who are already that can advise you, and to make sure that you're not dealing with the wrong customers. There is unfortunately an element in the market here that will offer, especially new suppliers, they will offer you large volumes, and they will then tell you that they will sell that on what they call a commission basis. So you lose control of your product. You don't know what price you're going to get for it, and you've got no control over what that is, and that leads to a lot of angst and disappointment. And also there is an element of criminal fraud that goes on, where again companies set up here, they will engage with many different companies and a supply, and will order a lot of product on the basis that they'll pay you within maybe 30 days. Everything comes in, they liquidate everything, low price, close the company, lock the doors, and everyone disappears. So again, it's having that a local knowledge here, either through partnerships here, or I would also encourage companies to think about, if you're supplying, think about why not coming here and looking to set up your own business, so that you control the value chain and the supply chain from the beginning to the end. That way you can be most successful. But certainly in the beginning, key thing is get the quality right, understand the market here by spending time here or engaging the right companies here to deal with that, and to support you and make sure that you don't make the mistakes that will be very costly in the end. And that way you can start to be successful. And also it's to look for the products that are special to your country, are unique. And again, don't go for the commoditized products if you can help it, because that way you're always just in a price game. Look for stuff that is a little bit more interesting and a little bit more different from everyone else. So those are some of the key things to getting into the market here, with the risks and the opportunities. And please feel free at this stage to ask any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And kindly in the comment section, send us those questions. Send your comments and your questions through those who are catching us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Ask any questions in the comment section, and we'll be able to sort of shoot that through to our panelists. So, Brian, in my experience working with particularly agribusiness companies coming from Africa to the UAE, one of the biggest challenge I usually have is what I call a cultural barrier. Like you said, there's a way we're used to doing business here, like you're saying, if it's in terms of credit, even some culture like the turnaround time, because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my experience, the market in Dubai is, the turnaround time is very quick. Like, for example, if someone places an order, they want an answer really quick. If they want something, they want it in a very quick manner. So a lot of times I find Guys here can be a bit slower. For example, someone places an order and is like, I'm interested in talking to you. Someone takes the time, doesn't get back in time, and they lose that order. So, in terms of mind shift and cultural, let me say, cultural differences, especially what I call corporate culture. What, because you've operated in both markets, what would you say is the biggest challenge difference in terms of corporate culture in Africa and in the UAE?
Yes, there is definitely a difference, and the UAE market is a very uh, fast-paced market and moves very quickly. And one of the issues that you raised there quite rightly is speed of communication. We can't, people will be expecting answers on the same day that the question is posed at latest, and because they're in a chain themselves, so they're committing to someone else, so they need quick and obviously importantly accurate information on your product, when you can ship it, how it is packed, when would it arrive, and also very accurate documentation to go along with it. So, for example, with products that are coming in on air freight, the shipper has to know everything that is required at this end. Yeah. So just because you send stuff to, even, a lot of experience that has gone wrong here is sometimes shippers that are sending to Europe, they think, great, I send to Europe, therefore it'll be fine in the UAE. I'll just do exactly the same. And that's not the case, because the rules and regulations here are different on pesticides, for example, that are used on the product. The checking for types of insects that may be there. There's a whole host of different things that are required here. So knowing that is very important, because if you've got something that is a fresh product and it ends up stuck in the airport or the seaport for a few days, your margin is probably gone. The deterioration in the product will affect the price. And generally, it's been very, very smart and very, very organized and very, very efficient. And, it can't be an attitude of, okay, well, that will do. That will be okay. That will be enough. No, again, the businesses who do well, they have quick responses. They're very smart answers. They're very accurate. Their documentation is perfect, and they fully understand what is needed. So definitely it is something that wins or loses your business because of that.
Awesome, awesome. And talking about trade financing, because that's one of the, like you said, there's a 90-day gap in the market, which is something that hurdle that suppliers really needs to think about when trying to really capitalize on the opportunities that we're talking about here. Why do you think there's such a challenge in finding financing? Because obviously the gap is there. There's a lot of food, because here's the thing, there's avocados, for example. I'm from Kenya. There's avocados literally going bad in our farms, and we have suppliers who want to buy a container a week in Dubai. So why is there such a challenge in financing?
I think the challenge in financing, from if we deal with the trade financing element of it, uh, companies who engage in trade financing unfortunately look at agriculture as a high risk area. And it's high risk because it is a perishable commodity. If you just, to use your example of avocados, very highly perishable product. And therefore, the people who want to invest in trade financing, they're basically risking their money because they will be the one that will be receiving payment after they have paid you. But at the moment that you have just delivered the product, they pay you. And if there's a problem with that product afterwards, then they're the ones that are putting their money at risk. So I think it's also trade financing is not fully understanding and not fully having enough confidence in the fresh produce market. And the way to give them confidence, of course, is going back to some of the previous things we've mentioned there, is having running a very tight organization, and being able to demonstrate that you have, for example, all the relevant international certificates, such as Global Gap, etc., and also that you're able to control your supply chain. Because one of the things that I believe is a weakness is, in many cases, there's a grower, then there's potentially there's a buyer, an exporter, and then there's a pack house. 3 different companies. And therefore, the continuity and the control is not there. So as an example, the exporter will buy it from the grower, then he gets it picked, shipped to the pack house. The pack house is then doing their bit, but are they up to the standard that the exporter really needs? Is there any issues in the pack house? Often I have unfortunately seen pictures of the product I'm expecting, and then when it arrives here, it's nothing like it. So product gets switched, unfortunately, in some pack houses. So therefore, if you're a trade finance person looking at all those risk factors, it's not a good case to say let's give these guys some funding. And the other thing that any trade financer will look for is at least 2 years of a good, strong, healthy balance sheet. And again, sometimes, if you're 3 different companies involved in the actual supply of the product, as I said, the grower, the pack house, the exporter, coming up with balance sheets for everybody involved in that is very difficult. And it's usually the exporter will want to apply for the trade financing. But if the trade financing can be done, obviously I would think that it's something that in the first year of your business can be a great asset. In most cases, companies will pay 85% of the invoice value upon delivery, and then the balance will be paid to you less their percentage, which is usually somewhere between 6 to 8% of the invoice value, will be paid once the final invoice has been paid by the final customer. And the other challenge, of course, is that you have to get the final customer to agree to pay the trade financing company. And sometimes with businesses that can be contrary to their own policies. So, for example, it's like issuing a purchase order to the exporter. Again, we'll use avocados, the exporter in Nairobi. But when the final invoice comes, you're not paying that same company, you're paying the trade finance company. And sometimes from an audit and financial control aspect, companies will not do that. So those are other challenges that are involved. I think the areas that I believe that the trade financing can come into play is with trade financing in the country of origin, as opposed to, in the case of Dubai, the country of destination. And it's certainly something that should be looked at, if it can be, by governments, in the sense of the public-private partnerships to facilitate the credit that exporters of fresh produce need to overcome this 60 to 90-day lag in when you get paid. I think that's a much more productive way to do it, because the government of the country will understand correctly what the needs are of the exporter and can be much more sympathetic. So I would see that as one of the key ways to do that, is for the exporting governments, country of exporting governments, to support the exporters with stuff like that, giving them some credit leeway.
Interesting. And talking about products, because we have people tuning in who are in different produce, what would you say are the top sellers from Africa? Top produce, food stuff coming from Africa to the UAE?
I would say the tops are the ones I mentioned already is avocados, also mangoes, pineapples, apples, mainly from South Africa, and then what we call stone fruits, which are peaches, apricots, and grapes. And then also there's chilies, green and red chilies, and then also there's the what I call the processed vegetables, which are broccoli, stem, sugar snap peas, mange tout, a baby sweet corn. So those are the kind of tick list of products, and then there's the more unusual ones. There's a not more unusual, but stuff like sweet potato, yams, coming from, there's a lesser market for those, but there's still a market for them here.
Interesting. What about talking about beverages like coffee, tea? Um, how's the
Okay,
market for that?
sorry, yeah, I was very, very focused on the produce. Yes, obviously, coffee and tea are huge markets here. The coffee market is something around 650 million USD market here.
Oh,
Coffee is massive here.
mm,
There is a lot of independent coffee shops, as well as almost as many as the sort of classic chains, Starbucks, Costa. Uh,
mhm,
it's a big part of Arabic culture,
mhm,
and it's a very good market. But again, very, very competitive, very, very competitive
mm,
market here,
mm,
uh, because it's not only the many African countries that are producing good quality tea and coffee, more so on coffee, but you've also got Brazil, Colombia,
mm. Colombia.
in Indonesia, even Vietnam's producing coffee now. So there's huge
Mm,
competition, but
mm,
it's again it's about a getting something unique that tells a story, not just coffee beans. It's
mm,
about if you look at the example, and this is what I would always recommend for coffee or tea growers, and it happens to a degree, but probably not enough. Look at the example of how the French have marketed their wine, yeah,
mm,
and how they've protected the quality of their wine by
mm,
creating a zone, a region
mm,
that is
mm,
unique.
mm,
Because tea from one part of a country will be different from tea from another part, because the soil will be different, the climate will be slightly different. So they
mm,
should, just don't create tea. People talk about Ethiopian coffee or Arabic coffee, yeah.
mm,
A
mm,
Create a story around it. Where does it come from? What's the village? Give it a name or region, as well as a general bean variety, and then you're
mm,
beginning to create a story around it.
mm,
A There will always be the mass market coffee for the likes
mm,
of Costa and Starbucks, but the independent
mm,
coffee shops, they're much more happy to have something that has a story. They can tell it. You go into them, they've got a board saying, coffee from here, but be a little bit more specific. Use QR codes on the packaging to to let the customer scan that and go back to the guy who grew it. The people who processed it. People want to see their coffee was almost, an incredibly artesian and rural product. Grown in the hills. Roasted in the sun, and then before it was roasted over special charcoal to give it a flavor. Yeah, stuff like that. Create a point of difference, because otherwise you just end up in a mass commodity game, and then that's never going to build you the brand value that you want, and never build the monetary value that you want. And on the kind of the other beverages that, uh, do you want to talk about alcoholic beverages?
Yeah, yes, definitely,
Is there
because
anyone
it's
interested in that?
yeah, definitely, because you see, when you think of UAE, you think of it's an Islamic country,
Hmm.
but so a lot of people don't associate alcoholic products with
Hmm.
those markets. But what a lot of people don't understand is that it's a very multicultural space. That the UAE is actually very highly multicultural, particularly Dubai, with only about what is it 10% local,
Yeah,
the rest
yeah,
from everywhere else in the world. So a lot of people don't think a lot of brands, because I've spoken to guys who run breweries and all that kind of a thing. They don't think of the UAE as a potential market. So maybe you can touch a little bit on alcoholic products.
yeah. Look, you're exactly right. No, the UAE is a very big market for alcoholic products, and the reason why is, as you've touched on, there's only 8% of the population are local. Okay, there is other Muslim populations from Egypt, Jordan, India, Bangladesh, etc., and North Africa here too. But what you have to remember, there's a huge population that is non-Muslim, and then of course the majority of the tourists coming here are non-Muslim, and therefore these people have all an expectation of having beers and wines and spirits in the hotels and the restaurants that they go to. So it is a very big market, and again, it is a very, very expensive market because the government does, make sure that we pay for the pleasures that we that we want. Uh, but looking at it from, let's say, if we take the beer market, the beer market here is dominated by what I would call lower grade European beers and Indian beers. To my knowledge, uh, and I couldn't be 100% sure, but I can't remember ever seeing a African beer in any of the retail outlets here. Just to put you quickly in the picture, the alcohol is not openly for sale everywhere you go here. It is restricted to two businesses, one called African and Eastern and one called MMI, which those two guys, and they're both ultimately government owned businesses. Uh, they're the ones that are the only outlets selling alcohol. But if you look at, I've travelled in many parts of Africa, and there's very unique regional beers that I'm sure would be very successful here. In South Africa, there's many beers. I've experienced nice beer in Uganda, Nile Special, and of course, the one that very stands out, and I don't understand why it doesn't sell beyond its shores is your own Kenyan Tusker beer. It's it's a very good beer and it's a very good strong brand, and
Mm,
yet it doesn't. You can't get it here. Yeah, so there's an opportunity for
mm.
those. I can see you smiling. So obviously
It's
you
true.
know what I mean. Yeah. So there's a great opportunity, to sell directly through these two organizations because they have a lot of outlets. It's a big market, and also there's a lot of African expats that live here who I'm sure would love to get a taste of the homeland. That is just missing, and I think it's a big opportunity. Because there's also a lot of good cider that I know is made in Africa. Again, the only one that I've ever seen here is the South African brand Savannah. Uh, so there's a big opportunity there in the beverage sector as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and the other two big sectors, which again I'm not sure are really of great interest because they're overstocked, is the energy drink sector, uh, and the general soft drinks. But they're my own personal view is they're completely saturated, and well, they're just products based on putting more sugar into something. Yeah, you've already got Red Bull that dominates the market, and then you've got a few other local brands here that are just, they're just carbonated sugar. But the beer, I really think there's a big opportunity missed.
I, well,
Because it's funny that you can get a lot of South African wine, for
mhm,
example, here, but
mhm,
no beer, no beer.
mhm,
Yeah, which is
interesting.
strange. And I mean, even I know there's wine produced in Ethiopia, there's wine produced in Egypt. Uh, I'm not sure whether Kenya produces any wine, but Namibia produces a bit. So
Mm,
there's, it's burgeoning. So it's something that's, the beer you could start moving that straight away. I don't see why that's a problem. I really don't. It just seems to be that maybe people think Muslim country, no
mm,
drinking, so forget it. Yeah.
mm, mm,
And the other our big neighbors next door, Saudi Arabia,
mm,
they're been very strict on non-alcohol, but there is several large tourist projects being built on the Red Sea. One called the Red Sea Project, the other called NEOM, and these guys are going to have large hotel facilities, and they're going to have alcohol because they have to attract the tourists.
mm,
So there's going to be a huge boom in consumption up there as well, and the UEA companies, because of their experience already, they have already got the license to sell a lot of the alcohol into Saudi Arabia going forward. So to link up with MMI and African and Eastern here from some of the distributors and breweries in
interesting.
Africa would be the right time to do it.
Mm. Wow, that is really interesting. Very interesting.
Mm.
So I think so. Let me ask you. So the thing is, when you talk about the regulatory, what are some of the regulatory issues that you're looking at when you're getting into supplying of alcohol and beers in the UAE? How easy or complicated is it?
It's it's relatively easy in the sense that there's only two companies you have to go and talk to. You
Oh,
can't do it any other way. So the two I mentioned, African and Eastern and MMI. So you contact those guys directly, and then they take care of, if you get your product on board with them, then they take care of all the distribution, all the sales and marketing,
mm,
everything. Yeah. So your product will be in every one of their stores, and people, as I said, people do consume large quantities here. And that sounds terrible thing to say, but the way it's structured is because a lot of restaurants cannot serve alcohol. There's rules that restaurants within hotels can, but outside of the hotels they can't. So what
mm,
happens is there's a large, there's a large consumption of alcohol in the home. Yeah. So people are buying the alcohol, taking it home, consuming it at home with food, with barbecues, that type of thing. Yeah. So there's a very high amount of liquor stores and liquor stores, we call liquor store sales, yeah, for home consumption, yeah, as well as the bars and restaurants. And there is the average hotel in Dubai will have at least you know average 4-star and upwards hotels will have between 4 to 7 restaurants in each
mm,
hotel,
mm,
and there's probably one of those will probably be non-alcohol dry for the
mm,
Muslims, and then every other one will be serving alcohol. Plus, again, most of the hotels of 4-star and up will have at least 1 or 2 bars and nightclubs as well, all
mm,
situated there.
mm.
So there's a great opportunity for the large African breweries, I think, to reach out and start to make some inroads in there. It's a wasted opportunity, as I would say it.
Now, before I go to the questions, I want to talk a little bit about Pan-African business. Um, what do you feel is the opportunity in Pan-African import and export of food and beverage that you feel is completely untapped at this point?
Well, I think if you look at the Pan African, then you're looking at what is there a regional identity to the food and the produce. And also, what I would see is that you've got already within Africa certain economic blocks and groupings being created. You have the block in East Africa, you have the block in Southern Africa. And I would see these as a way to harness that Pan-African opportunity so that the strength of the whole continent can be utilized. And again, those economic blocks should be looking, in my view, to create export organizations, which again, all the different governments can contribute to and fund, and to build on the strength of that, because there may be one country within the bloc has got strong growing, another one may have strong logistics in terms of storage, and also in terms of airlines, because it's a great contrast in the strength of different airlines within different countries, so that the produce can be moved quickly. So if there was coordination within these blocks, that would start to give the realization of that Pan-African opportunity, so that one country can support the deficiencies in another country, and vice versa, and that way you'll create a much stronger economic bloc. Like just like the way also then that you can start to regulate stuff within that block to maximize the amount of money you get for your products by harmonizing quality standards, by harmonizing the regulation that's involved in that, so that a product that comes from Namibia is the same as a project that comes from Mozambique in terms of its standards and its quality. And that way, I think then it raises the whole level of the quality of the food and beverage that's coming out of Africa over the whole of the continent.
Awesome. Also, I guess it's about also overcoming logistical challenges, because one of the greatest issues we have when it comes to Pan-African business is really just logistics, because getting your products from one side to the other can be quite a challenge.
Yes, absolutely right. And that's what I mean about exploiting the strengths of one country that is weak in another country. So, if we take many of the smaller countries in Africa are landlocked. So how do those guys get their stuff out? They need the support of the guy next door that's got the port, so that there is the harmonization, and that's where the cooperation comes in on a regional and economic bloc. That within, if we take for example the East African bloc, you've got Rwanda sitting there, which is completely landlocked. So it needs a support to have a good rail and road infrastructure to take stuff to Kenya and to put it out through Mombasa, and to use the strength of, then the other side, if it is, Rwanda has a good airline, strong airline, should it support Uganda to move Ugandan products by air? Uganda, unless I'm mistaken, Uganda doesn't have an airline. So, those are the areas that the logistics could be better maximized. But of course, it also needs investment to improve ports, to improve airports, to improve roads. I know there's been a lot of Chinese investment, for example, in many African countries in terms of infrastructure. And while that is, helps with the infrastructure, the caution for that is you have to look at what is the price of that infrastructure in terms of, mineral rights, in terms of fishing rights, in terms of generally, losing control. You got to control your own infrastructure, in my view. You can't have a foreign entity owning your ports and your airports and your railways and your roads. Yeah. Because what do you own if you don't own those? Yeah. So it's the governments have to be very careful that what appears to be an amazing gift isn't really a gift. Yeah. It's a gift on the outside, but it's not a gift on the inside. So improvement of the infrastructure.
You know what they call the gift that keeps on giving? This is the gift that keeps on taking.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I think governments have to be careful and have to look at the financing of infrastructure, of course, through organizations such as the World Bank, etc., that are not looking to control stuff. It's not easy, I know, because it's the same with your trade financing. Sometimes the price you pay in the long run is too high a price. Yeah.
And I guess it's about balancing the opportunity cost of taking it or not taking it, and making wise decisions. So before we run out of time, I want us to go into the questions. So let me see. Ruthie LLC says, "Hi Brian, lovely seeing you here. Hello from Doha."
So that's not a question. That's just a hello. Thank you, Ruth. Good question. Nice to see. Wish I could see you too. No, Ruth's a very old friend who we've done a lot of good work with over the years. So it's nice of her to check in and say hi. No,
awesome.
So if anybody needs anything in Doha, Ruth's the lady to contact. Awesome. She's very well versed in the food and beverage business up there. She's helped me many times with things.
Awesome. So then Aisha also, it's more of just a comment. She's asking what's your advice to new beginners willing to invest in UAE food and fruit?
I think my advice would be, come over here, understand the market, connect with people like ourselves who will give you good advice and point you in the right direction, and then understand the value of whatever you've got. Is it worth anything here? Maybe worth a lot to you, but is it worth anything here? And be fully knowledgeable on what you're getting into, and what's the lowest price in the market, what's the highest price in the market, and equip yourself with as much information as possible. And that way you'll either say, yes, I can do this, and you will minimize the risk and you will maximize the opportunity. Don't go into it without doing your homework and your due diligence. That would be my advice. And spend the money to come here. You can't do it on the internet. Yeah, you cannot. Yeah,
very true. I mean, and that's a conversation we have with a lot of clients. When they hear we are in business facilitation in Dubai, a lot of people just wanna give me an order. They just say, give me an order of how many containers. Even if you give someone an order of 10 containers, they'll actually put together that money and send it. And that's why a lot of guys get caught. And I don't think we even got into the fraud that is. We've not even touched on the fraud that is there, especially in food and beverage in UAE and in Dubai. Guys lose containers and truckloads. And it's mostly because guys, and especially from Africa, sorry to say, we are more eager to get a quick order than to actually take time, do the legwork, come to Dubai. And sometimes you come to Dubai not even to get an order, but just to learn. Is this something that I can actually do? Or do I need to go back home and improve on capacity? Okay.
Yes.
So I think knowledge is power. You have to learn before you earn, and I don't think we can underpin that more.
No, I totally agree. And it's very easy to get seduced by someone offering you a big order. We'll all jump at it, and we don't think about it, and we we go mad. We pack it, we send it, and then we find the guy doesn't give us a price we want, delays our payments, complains about the quality because we didn't fully understand what he meant. And we didn't understand what size of product he want, what maturity, and then it's a very bad experience. So, it's take the more time you take to understand what you're getting into and what you're doing and what you need to do, the more money it will save you and make you in the end. So spend some of the money to come here, sit in a hotel, go to the market, understand it, engage people here that will give you the correct advice and are not trying to take advantage of you.
Very true, very true. So Abereket is saying, Mr. Boninyaga, please ask Mr. Brian why EU government continues to finance African government than African companies. Why?
I without being able to speak for the EU, I think it's because they would probably view that that's the best way to distribute the funding. But of course, it depends on the African government has to then distribute the funding to the correct companies. But I would advise, I've had some experience in Ethiopia in where there is certain governments, for example, the Norwegian government, they have several different funds that are used to go direct to companies in Africa. They're Norwegian government funds, but they go direct to companies. So you basically you're pitching them a business plan, and they will fund you the money at very or virtually zero interest rates over a very long period of time, because then their view is that that has more benefit than giving it directly to a government, because there's the risk that it never gets, the government doesn't spend it on the companies, it spends it on whatever the government wants to spend it on. Yeah, it's just a way to get funding from the European Union, but it doesn't necessarily have the long-term benefit that it should. So my view would be, if I've got details of these companies, if anyone wants to get in touch, I can give them the details and they can apply directly to these companies. There's lots of the UK government does it as well, and I think the Swedish government does it as well, and the Danish. So you're bypassing the big beast of the EU in terms of a large organization that's dealing on a government-to-government level. And although these are government departments within these countries, they are looking to give money directly to companies in Africa.
And the funding, what does it usually go towards? And what are some of the qualifications you need for you to access this kind of fund?
Well, it can basically go to any type of business, whether it be manufacturing, farming, IT, research. There's no limit. But what it needs to be, it's like you have to approach it like you're just going to your bank to get funding. You have to have a very good idea, sound business plan. You have to have your numbers correct, and you have to know where you're going to sell it, where that market is. It's like the top to bottom of due diligence. You can't just go in and with a couple of pages and say, listen, I've got a great idea. That won't work.
Awesome. So Prudy Doody is saying, hello, Mr. Nyaga. I'm really enjoying the session. Here are my questions. How do you go about sourcing agricultural material for export? And then the second question is, which books would you recommend on agribusiness?
Well, you've got to look at wherever country you're in, what can you export from that country? Yeah, you got to look at what is easily available. What is your, because there's a difference between, for example, what you can export from West Africa to East Africa, different climate, different everything, different. So you got to look at what you can export, and secondly, is it a market for it? And in terms of books, I'd be honest, there's not one book I can recommend. There's a plethora of books, but as I said, don't look at the book. The book will not tell you what you need to know. Look at the market that you're looking to get into. If it's the UEA market, if it's the European market, look and spend your time traveling there. That's the best way. The best way to understand what people eat is to go to their country and go to a supermarket. Walk around the supermarket. That'll teach you more than the book will ever teach you. Yeah, then you'll understand what those people eat, where it's coming from, whether your product is there already. Are you competing with other countries? So what is your point of difference? And if your product's not there, then is there an opportunity? And do you think it is a product that will suit that market? Because not all products in food and beverage translate from one country to another. What one country loves and eats, another country would never dream. Culturally, miles apart. So, don't. You can do lots of reading, but there's nothing I would recommend. If you want to know what you're going to do, look what you've got in your country, and then spend some time traveling elsewhere and understand what those other countries require and what they want, and that will teach you more in a shorter period of time.
Awesome. And anyone else who wants more of this information, you can email me. I've put out the email info@mawaida.com. You can just reach out, and we'll be able to pass on your queries in case we don't get to your questions. Also on LinkedIn, Boniface Nyaga on LinkedIn. Just send me a query. I'll be able to forward it. Let me see. Carlos George Jama is saying interested in these funds. So just shoot me an email and we'll be able to do that. Also, Aisha Me is saying, thank you, Mr. Brian. Can you recommend a UAE company distributor for researching marketing? I think it's market research.
Yes, WL Food Marketing, my company. I can recommend them. They're very good.
There you go.
Or if you don't want me, there's the obviously big consultancy companies. They're all here, like Price Waterhouse. They've all got agri divisions. Yeah. And you can contact them, but they will cost you a lot of money.
A pretty penny, obviously.
Yes, so make sure you've got a big pocket. If you come to meet those guys, yeah.
So William Stenhouse is saying Cassia Labs is an excellent UAE-based market research company. Mr. Chuck is the CEO. So I think we can close this. So I think we can close this for now. What's your takeaway? Brian, what's your takeaway? What's your closing remark on this?
I think, guys, it's to reiterate the other points. For Africa to UEA, please come and understand the markets here. Spend your time understanding whether your food or beverage will work here. Form and look to form partnerships with the right people here, so that again you de-risk it and you also will be secure in the investment that you're making in learning to export. And if possible, make sure your quality is good, whatever your supply chain in your own country is. If you're not in control of it all, then please get control of it all. And aim for good quality and aim for something unique if possible, something that's not here. A different vegetable, a different root, whatever it may be. And that way you've got something that no one else has. That would be my advice.
Awesome. So, guys, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and good luck to everyone who wants to export to here. I wish you well.
We look forward to joining you in Dubai as we come for a tour, with
Please,
all the
be my guest.
I've gotten a lot of interest for people who are really, really interested in agribusiness. And just as if you had Brian say, you've had it right from the horse's mouth that we need to go there, boots on the ground.
Yep.
Let's go there. Let's see physically. You have a lot of support between Brian and also the UAE Africa Networking Group,
Yep.
plus Mawaida Company Africa. You have all the support that you need. So come out with us. Let's go down there. Let's check out the market. And let's put higher emphasis on learning. Learn.
Yep.
Do your homework before you even start jumping into it. And there's no shortcut to this thing.
No, there's not. People who will put the effort in and do the due diligence will be the ones that will be there in 10 years' time and will be successful. Yeah. Don't look at it as one quick order for 10 containers. That'll never work.
Very true. So, guys, thank you very much for your time. And kindly, anything you need, email info@mawaida.com. Reach us on if it's on LinkedIn, reach out to me, Boniface Nyaga. On Facebook, Mawaida Africa. On Instagram, Mawaida Africa. Reach out to us. Let's help you on this journey. And I hope this has been useful. Tell us anything else you want to learn around agribusiness or any other topic that you want to learn. We have a wealth of experts, both from Africa and from UAE, to really tackle and to help you expand and really reach your full potential. So this is the Africa UAE Business Summit to inspire you and to educate you. And until next time, have a great day.